Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, welcome back to my channel. So this is the second part of sixth chapter of Ashtanga Yoga. If you are already subscribed to my channel, you must have seen that part in which Lord Krishna has told the method of attaining Siddhi through yoga and how a normal person can come into the path of yoga and practice it. So, this is a method and technique told by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in the Kurukshetra. So, now I continue with the rest of the part of sixth chapter. So, he further says that when a person expects more happiness in something else than what he possesses, there is every possibility of his reverting to that. A man wants to attain supreme bliss or infinite bliss, and he runs after sleep, indolence, and heedlessness, the tamasic joys. But he abandons these because he feels that the joy derived from the contact of the senses with their objects is more pleasant than this one. He further says, this separation from the assumed union with pain is called yoga. This yoga should be practiced with determination and without a tired and inactive mind. Our union with pain and birth is a result of accepting our affinity with the world, and this affinity is merely assumed, not real. We can be delinked from this union because it's merely assumed and is not natural. Completely giving up all desires arising from thoughts of the world and restraining the senses from all sides by the mind. See, thoughts of worldly things, persons, and incidents, etc., come to the mind when the man is either attached to a hateful for these and it becomes a sankalp, means pursuit of the mind. So, this seed of pursuit sprouts and grows into a plant of desire. It should happen and it should not happen. This is desire. The desire born of thought should be completely abandoned. He further says, by whatever cause the restless and unsteady mind wanders away, he should restrain it and continually concentrate it on God. Mind does not remain steady in the fixed aim by a striver, so it is called unsteady. It thinks of worldly pleasures and objects of it is called restless. It means that neither it's fixed on the God nor renounces the world. Therefore, a striver should restrain the mind from worldly objects and thoughts with discrimination in place, safely it at the feet of the Lord. The yogi, whose mind is steeped in yoga, looks on all with an equal eye, sees his self present in all beings, and all beings mere as appearance with itself. See, the yogi sees the same divinity in all. As toys made of sugar in the shape of various birds, animals, and men are of the same stuff, sugar, various arms and weapons of iron, various toys made of clay, and various ornaments of gold, likewise, it is a shell that has assumed various forms in the universe. So, a yogi sees a self in all objects and beings. He who sees me, Krishna says to Arjun, he who sees me, the universe self, present in all creatures, and sees all beings existing in me, I am never out of sight for him, nor he is ever out of sight of mine. So, in this, listening to this, Arjuna said to Krishna, O Krishna, this yoga of equanimity has been preached by you, but I do not perceive its stability due to restlessness of my mind. He says, the mind verily is, O Krishna, restless, turbulent, obstinate, powerful. Therefore, I consider it difficult to control as the wind. According to Lord Krishna, desire has five locals: the sense, mind, intellect, sense objects, and self. Actually, desire means karma rests in the embodied self, but it seems to reside the senses, mind, intellect, etc., unless it is removed from the self. But when it is destroyed from the self, it does not appear anywhere. The blessed Lord said to Arjun, doubtless, O mighty armed, the mind is restless and hard to control, but by practice and by dispensation of son of Kunti, it can be done. So Lord Krishna addresses him as Mahabaho, mighty armed, to tell him that he is brave, so he should maintain patience and courage and not to lose heart. Moreover, he supports his statement that undoubtedly mind is restless and hard to control. Yoga is hard to realize by one whose mind is not completely subdued, but it can easily be achieved by him who has controlled his mind and who strive ceaselessly, such as my conviction. It is my opinion that yoga is too hard to attain for one whose mind is not subdued, because restlessness of mind is not such a great obstacle to attain yoga, that is uncontrolled mind. As a chaste wife cannot, controls her mind, but she does not concentrate. So too a striver should control his mind. By controlling the mind, a striver can concentrate on God. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, who of faith is lax in his striving and whose mind deviates from yoga, having failed to attain perfection in it, what does end he meet?" So he asks him that if he fails to get on the path of yoga, if he fails to do the prescribed procedure by him, so what kind of a life he's gonna have later? What kind of a path he has? He also asks, "O mighty arm, the delusion and fallen in the path of God without any hold upon the world, does he not perish like a broken cloud derived from the both God realization and worldly enjoyment?" So he who renounces the desire for worldly pleasures, honor and praise, etc., and follow a spiritual discipline, but he is not able to realize God at a time of death, deviates from yoga. Illustration of a cloud is not quite apt, because a part of cloud and the main body of clouds and the part to which is going to rejoin, all three belong to the same class, they matter. But in the case of a striver, the world is matter, while he himself and God are sentiment, thus do not belong to the same category. He further says to Krishna, "O Krishna, please dispel this doubt of mine completely, for who other than yourself can do?" Arjun believed that Sri Krishna was an incarnation of God, so here he puts the question to him about the Dhyan Yogi. What fate he meets if his mind deviates from yoga, and tells him that no one else can dispel this doubt besides him. So Lord said, "O Parth, there is no fall for him either here or after, for none of who works for self-redemption meets with an evil end." O son of Parth, or striver who deviates from yoga and never falls, it means that he does not go to a state inferior to what he has already attained. His spiritual practice and aim to go with him to his next birth, and he will not take birth again and again. So it means that the the feelings of spirituality, once germinated, cannot be wiped out, because whatever is done for God becomes real. Lord Krishna says that one who works for self-redemption never meets with an evil destiny, because the impression of the past always inspired him towards spirituality. Even if one goes to lower births, his nature will be superior to that of other members, of his class. The fallen yogi have attained to the world of the righteous, and having lived there for countless years, is reborn in the house of the pious and prosperous. See, those people who make offerings in accordance with the ordinance of scriptures attain the world of the righteous, heaven. It means that the righteous, not the sinners, attain heaven. But the strivers who have no desire to reap the fruit of the virtuous actions attain heaven without much effort, while people who perform oblation attain heaven by making efforts. He further says that, or if he is born in a family of enlightened yogis, but this kind of birth is very difficult to have in this world. Means you have to do a lot of yoga and tap and good deeds to be a yogi in your next birth. There he regains knowledge of the previous birth, and he strives more than ever for perfection or joy of the Kurus. The term has been used to describe the condition of the dispassionate striver after his birth in the family of the enlightened ones. If we interpret that both kind of strivers who deviate from yoga go to heaven, out of them the one whose desire for pleasure is born in the house of pious and prosperous, while the other who has no lust is born in a family of enlightened yogis. Will it make any difference? We cannot tell you know the striver if he is born after going to heaven, because the duration of his stay in heaven will come into between the two births. Further, Krishna says, one who takes birth in the house of prosperous, though subject to the senses, is drawn towards God because of the former practice, as even seeker of the God yoga of equanimity also transcends the fruit of Vedic rituals with some motive. In this verse, Lord explains importance of a seeker of yoga in order to describe the importance of the yogi. When the seeker of a yoga transits action and further laid down in the Vedas, how can he have firm determination of God realization? The seeker of yoga is who attaches more importance to yoga than pleasure and prosperity, but his desire for pleasure and prosperity has not been wiped out. He has not attained perfection. to yoga and is seeker of yoga. Even such a seeker transcends the action and their fruits. Then the striver who has deviated from yoga is far superior to the seeker. A yogi who strives painstakingly and purified from sins and perfected through more than one birth reaches the supreme state. A dispassionate striver who deviates from yoga by taking birth in the family of enlightened yogis and striving more than before attains his perfection of God realization. But how the striver taking birth in the house of the pious and prosperous realizes God is elucidated in this particular verse. The yogi is superior to aesthetics, not devoid of desire, superior to men of learning, and also superior to the ritualist. Therefore, Arjuna, do be a yogi. He says to Arjuna, do be a yogi. Of all yogis, he who devotedly worship me with his mind focused on me, considered by me to be the most superior yogi or the most devout one. So I'm gonna end this video right here, right now. This was the all second part of this chapter. Now, thus with the Om Tat Sat, the names of the Lord in the Upanishad of Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of Brahma, the Supreme, the science of self-control, yoga. So this was a dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjuna in the Ashtanga Yoga in 6th designated discourse, 6th chapter. So I'm gonna end this video. If you like my video, kindly subscribe to my channel, like this video and share among with your colleagues and friends. And I bring you next video in my next video. Thank you.